Or I am here with good friend Gordon Tolson of Glory Scars, and earlier this week you had hit me up and we talked a little bit about the crossroads between AI and art. And we had a interesting precursory discussion about the subject here, but I'm kind of curious, what did you see that brought to the forefront of your mind this week?
Well, I've been seeing, this big boom of, marketing, social media ads and whatnot, like AI, it's the next big thing. This is how you sell your merchandise, sell your product, sell your brand, present your company with AI, and then like it could be faceless. And then I have some kind of avatar, or, old picture of them when they was a baby, talking and so on and so forth. So, I'm a true believer in like, you should be able to create the things that you are. Well, let me think of how I should say this. You should at least know how to create or build or, whatever formula to I guess I can't even say that because then you have data art. Basically, do you know what data art is? Data art is
I've
basically
heard the name, but I don't know.
it's
No.
basically the art of nothing, or like basically where you can give new labels to like for example, one of a popular art piece in data art is called the fountain, and it's just a urinal that's like
I've
flipped
seen it.
upside down, and the guy's like, oh, this is the fountain. So I don't know. But anyway, for me, the type of artist that I am, I just feel that you should be able to create, whatever your particular medium is, or, whatever your particular, artistry, you should be able to do it yourself as opposed to relying solely on AI. Like telling, it's almost, people are using AI almost like a genie in a lamp. Like, I want a teddy bear holding ice cream, and
Yeah.
then, they'll have some kind of illustration or some kind of movie clip or video. But anyway, that's where it all came from because I've been seeing like a lot of companies talking about AI, implementing it. Because I remember just a couple years ago, when I was working with a particular government contractor, this gentleman, he took, all the information from a proposal and put it into ChatGPT and had ChatGPT write it up and everything. And then he put it, whatever ChatGPT made into the proposal bid. And there was this big controversy, like, oh my God, he put sensitive information into, OpenAI and blah, 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 blah. And it was just such a big thing. But now those same government contractors and corporations, they're like, you know, it makes it easier, and we can save money, and let's get rid of 10,000 people because AI can do what they can do. so,
Right.
so I don't know. It's a lot.
Yeah, a lot of companies are using large language models, AI, for supplanting their workforce. And it's I think the issue there with what that company could have been upset about was the fact that it was OpenAI's AI and not some other because people know OpenAI, that's probably the most prominent name in the space. And I'd say Google would be a close second because they do have the Gemini product
Gemini,
that I
right?
do like.
Hmm.
But when people think about AI, it's automatically ChatGPT and it's OpenAI. So it's the fact of okay, you're giving our data to them and they everything that's put in there, like it's in the notification when you sign off and say that you're feeding the data, it makes the model more accurate. It's building and compounding. Like even if you look at just the accuracy of the prompt responses you get, it's much better now than what it was before, I think, with
I think.
the exception of when it doesn't tell you what you want to know. So like if you ask something, you could ask something adjacent to a political question, and it says
Hmm.
that I can't I can't speak about elections. Or
Right,
if you
right.
ask about something financial, it's like I can't give financial advice or I'm not asking you about financial advice. I'm asking you to give me the 60-day moving average of this stock. But sometimes it's I haven't done it recently, but I do know that it is somewhat risk averse in what it does supply to us. But
Yeah,
other
and
than
then
that, it's
they
pretty good.
and then they had the disclaimer that ChatGPT can make mistakes and so on and so forth.
Which it
And this,
does.
yeah, and then sometimes you even see it like it'll be answering something in a particular way, and I'll be reading. I'm like, okay, and then it'll just glitch and disappear, and it's almost like, oh, we can't share this information, or this goes against, this violates ChatGPT, policy or so on and so forth. Like it does have a lot of restrictions, but sometimes I'll see it saying something and then they'll like backtrack, it'll make it disappear and then they'll write something different. And then I'll even ask you, I'll be like, well, you were saying something different before. And they'll be like, yeah, I do that sometimes, yeah, it's okay. Let's act like we didn't see that. But yeah, but I think with the government contract, I think the biggest issue was is that
It's the
the
government,
gentleman, he put sensitive information in there and they don't know who has access to said information. Like they don't
right?
know who's in the back channels of OpenAI, who can look at, whatever they're, producing, so on and so forth. Like, and it's kind of like one of those things like follow the money. They don't know they don't know who's in the background creating this. As I always use Oz. Like they see Oz, but who's the wizard? Like, that has access to that particular information that was uploaded. So I think that was the biggest problem.
I see.
But now they're open to it, so I don't know.
Yeah, I mean they kind of have to because it's the it's the whole dilemma of if you don't adopt this technology, if you don't utilize it, your competitors they might not have the same stance. They probably don't have the same stance. And if you're looking at it strictly from just say a profits and efficiency standpoint, absolutely. So you're kind of forced into if you want to remain competitive and viable in today's landscape.
If you can't beat them, join them.
Exactly. But it sounds like this whole thing, I guess your initial curiosity was brought about from what's going on within marketing in the corporate space.
Yeah, I see. I'm one of those believers that, I don't want to be a relic of a time. So I try to keep up with innovation and things that are happening. I don't want to sound like the old guy, like, oh, well, back in my day, we used to draw with wood pencils. And like, and I used to carve them myself and we had to sharpen it. Like, I don't want to be that guy. So if, it's new technology and it's booming and it's happening, you either learn how to use it and use it as a resource or a tool, or you become obsolete and you find yourself in a position of limbo where you can't get jobs, you can't secure any kind of business and so on and so forth because you're outdated. So I definitely feel as though it's something that I need to at least understand to where I can have a realistic conversation with people that are talking about it and then may ask questions, because even in like a lot of jobs now in the design field, they're asking that you understand AI and be able to do AI art and blah blah blah. So
It's
it
just
is it's coming. It's like winter is coming, so you you either get in or fall out. So
yeah. I admit I was a bit surprised when I saw you posting AI artwork that you had been working on because
yeah.
I have very strong beliefs about art versus digital images that are generated, the authenticity, as somebody else, because I think we're both on the same side of the coin when it comes to we both have artistic backgrounds and
Hmm.
we have a deep appreciation for that, and that's like we have a tremendous amount of respect for other people's capabilities, like to see somebody be able to draw this or to paint this, and it just admire that strictly from an artistic standpoint, not as just wow this looks good, but there's depth to it because we can kind of relate to it because you've spent years honing your craft,
Hmm.
so it's like from artisan to artisan,
Hmm.
and yeah, so it was a bit surprising. But after a further, because I wanted to ask you about like why were you doing what you were doing, experimenting with AI to augment your artwork or whatever part of your process that was, and you
Hmm.
shed a little bit of light on that. Could you reiterate that?
Excuse me. Similar to what I was just saying, like, I I've been testing it out, trying to I still have training wheels with it. Like I wouldn't say that I'm an expert or anything like that, but I've taken like some old drawings that I had back in the day, and I've given it to AI to see what it can produce, or I've used like my logo and see if it can create different things just to kind of see how it functions, how I need to communicate with it, see what I can produce, and so on and so forth. Just because, similar to what you said, I do have a great appreciation for somebody that, can use their mind, their hands, their blood, sweat, and tears to, produce a product. But at the same time, it is necessary for me to, kind of assimilate more and more with the technological age that's continuously evolving and growing around us. Because, like I said, I'm not trying to be obsolete to where, because they're building AI and all this tech around me anyway in my life.
Mhm.
So it's either going to be where, I'm boycotting it and not understanding it. I refuse to look at that's not real art. I can be like that. And then, there'll be a whole world around me that I don't understand, similar to like somebody that got locked up in the 70s. If you let them out right now, like they would be like, "What? How is that happening? Is that real?" You know what I mean? Like
Why does everybody walk around with these boxes, and what are
yeah,
they doing?
exactly. Exactly. And then it's like even if you have like the Google Glass or what's the other one
The
that people
Oculus.
the Oculus. Yeah, you see people walking like they probably think they were like looking at the Jetsons or something like that. Like I'm not I'm trying to understand it because it's inevitable that it's going to be an existing entity in our world and our reality. So means to secure funding for my family and to the build credibility for my business and different clientele that I'll acquire. I just wanted to get more immersed in it to understand it to because I look at it almost similar to like back in the day people used to ride horses everywhere and the automobile I think the steam engine and all that was kind of like, oh, that's just a toy or that's just a fad, similar to the internet. Like when the internet like you can look at old clips from back in the early 90s, they'd be like, oh, this new thing, the internet, it's and they said it was just gonna be a fad, similar to hip hop, it's just gonna be a fad. And then all these things, the automobile, hip hop, the internet, they
And
became a part of, the foundation of society. Like there's nowhere you can go in the world really, except for some, remote areas, but where you don't see an automobile. There's very few places you can go where you don't see hip hop or some kind of influence of hip hop. There's really not anywhere that you can go that doesn't have internet access. So, and AI is the same thing. Like, and then they have like the AI robots and, you know, all these other AI entities and mediums and automated vehicles and so on and so forth. So I just felt as though if I didn't do my due diligence to at least understand it in the early foundation stages that we're in right now,
mhm.
10 years from now, I'm going to be absolutely clueless and probably panhandling, begging somebody to support me. And we don't do that. That's not my ministry.
You had also mentioned there was, which I'm a little bit more favorable to this use case, is using AI to augment your capabilities as opposed to supplanting them
Oh, yeah,
entirely.
yeah, for sure.
Like the example I think you gave was to get rid of the background of an image, which
Yeah, 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 I did say that.
as like that's a tremendous pain in the ass. Depending on how detailed your image is, you can approximate something pretty good, but depending on the different shapes that you have on whatever like the focal object is, it could be very difficult. And also I could see with adding additional, let's say if the image you want is cropped for just due to the nature of that's what was captured in the picture, and you can say, well, extend this image and I get that. Like there's definitely a lot of use cases. I mean, I've used it for brainstorming sessions, kind of just to explore things and just throw out things before I put too much investment into it. But I think there's a distinction to be made about the people who do that and are using these AI artwork generators or AI image generators. And you can generate art, but it doesn't make you an artist. It makes you a prompt engineer. And that's that's
Yeah.
that's something that's a skill. I'm not taking away from it. Like that's going to be increasingly more important to where you can interact with the technology in a meaningful way to get the desired outcome. That's incredibly important.
Mhm.
But I'm not going to sit here and act like what they're doing is art if that's the sole thing that you're leaning on. Because to me, art, there's something about at its essence, which you're leaving your unique thumbprint on that comes from your style. Your everybody like you can ask me to draw an apple and you to draw an apple. They'd both be apples, but they're gonna each be different. And so over the course of our body of work, our respective bodies of work, we have a style, and that's something that's inseparable from us. I mean, unless we modify it or whatever the case is, but it's something that's synonymous with us, and that's kind of what I was thinking about with the this particular artist that was
Mhm.
upset about. Have you heard of the name Miyazaki? Does that mean anything to you?
Miyazaki. I've heard the name. Who is it?
Have you ever seen Spirited Away?
Spirited Way?
Spirited Away?
I don't think so, no.
Any Studio Ghibli film?
I don't think so.
All right. So I'm gonna take you to school real quick. Check this
Okay,
out.
let's go. Mhm.
Oh, you can't hear that, can you?
No.
And I'll probably just cut this part out, like of us actually watching the video, and then just resume when we're actually
Okay,
talking about it.
okay. I do I do want to say something because I feel like you'll get a debate from what you just said about the AI and somebody talking to the AI that's not really artistry and whatnot.
It's not.
No, I agree with you, but I feel I feel like a lot of people are going to, be able to bring up people like Steve Jobs. They'll be like, well, Steve Jobs, he was an engineer and he made the iPhone. He told the engineers what he wanted. That's always the great debate that people say. Like,
I,
you don't have to know how to do a thing if you can tell somebody what you're looking for. Mhm.
and I've read his book, and I certainly agree with that. He was not at its core, he wasn't a product guy. That wasn't his thing with actually design. He had some experience with it, but at its core, he was a visionary for the company. He wasn't the guy who was in there actually putting the pieces together and doing things like that.
Yeah.
Like so, I can certainly get that. It doesn't make you any more of a. I was thinking about this because I was just mentally going over and thinking about like how many different facets and just how interesting this topic is. But being able to do something or create an image with an AI doesn't make you any more of an artist in it than DJ Khaled is a DJ
Mm,
or a producer. No,
mm.
he assembles things. He's kind of like the we were both kids in the 90s. I love the Power Rangers. DJ Khaled is more akin to Zordon than anything because he brought the Power Rangers together.
Right.
He
Right,
wasn't actually the
right.
one. He wasn't the one kicking Lord Zed's ass.
Right, right, right.
He was like, I need y'all five.
Right, right.
Get in these
That's
robots
that's
and do what I,
funny.
So
Yeah, he set up the mission. He didn't actually do the work.
correct, and that's
Yeah,
just my whole perspective on it.
I got you.
Let me know if you can hear this.
Okay,
人工
I can
知
hear it.
能で動きを学習させた CG を見せてくれるそうで
The
す。
most important thing is probably the text because I can't understand Japanese.
Right, right. I got you.
Okay,
Yeah,
so that's the crux of it. And so you haven't seen his work, which I am absolutely
surprised.
yes.
I have kids, man. It's hard for me to keep up with everything.
No, this is old stuff. This is when we were kids, Gordon.
Oh, this
You
okay.
you you ain't have kids in like 2000, so can't use that. But I'm
I
sure
guess.
you've seen the artwork that's infamous with this. Like, I know you've seen this picture before, or at least these characters.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay, this is Studio Ghibli. This is his unique style, and it's trademarked by these simplistic, almost 2D style of artwork,
Hmm.
and it's deep watercolors, and that's his thing.
Okay.
Now, over the course of this week, it went viral because people they were. Let me maybe stop the share. But you've seen the style, and so
Yeah,
you're
yeah,
familiar with it. Okay.
yeah. Hmm.
All right, so when you start talking about AI with me, it was very fortuitous because this week, this whole conversation between Studio Ghibli, Miyazaki around AI, and how people are now using AI to copy his style to create
Mm.
images. And especially as an artist who is so outspoken about the use of technology in artwork, I think there's a lot to be said with that. And one of the things that kind of makes me really curious is as an artist, when you have a distinct style, now where do you draw the line where now you have people who are copying your unique thumbprint on the world that you created and reproducing it in mass?
Well, that's where I think, and I've seen a lot of people having a lot of lawsuits. And it's not only art from like the physical fine arts standpoint. People are using people's voices. Like you've seen Tupac, rapping
Yep.
as Drake and so on and so forth. So it's more so uh AI is more or less taking the soul from humanity.
Hmm.
And if AI if people are accepting AI doing that, you're basically accepting your own downfall because you have nothing to make you unique anymore. 'Cause basically, as soon as you show people, oh, look at what I can do, AI can just copy and paste your style. And then in like a million different, so like let's say your first piece of work is, the gingerbread man running a race or something like that,
Right.
and let's say that you had a particular, hashing or drawing or shading style or something like that, AI can copy and paste that. Now you have, an elephant that's drawn that way. You have a princess that's drawn that way, and so on and so forth. And it's like your originality is diminished, and people are paid, significant money for their particular style, their
Right.
particular capability, their particular mindset, their particular voice and sound. Like the dude that used to do this summer, that voiceover, I can't think of his name right now. He was paid so much money for that. And then Michael Butler, let's get ready to rumble. He was paid so much money for that. But if you can take it to where your particular cadence and style and your artistry can just be absorbed into the Pokemon ball of AI, it's like we're all going to be at a loss because nothing we do will ever be celebrated or valued or considered high caliber or like what is deemed professional anymore. Like if I can do something and then AI can take it from me, it's almost like AI is like what's his name, Shang Tsung from Mortal Kombat. Your soul is mine. It's like whatever you can do, it just takes it from you. So it is very scary. And another thing is trademarking and copywriting and so on and so forth. Like we have trademark laws, copyright laws, patents, and all that stuff. And if AI can just copy your style, like if it's something that you like, so let's say like what I was saying earlier, like with the elephant, gingerbread man, princess, let's say that that was your original art, but let's say that you never made like landscapes or vehicles, but then AI takes your particular style and let's say your style is trademarked or whatever like that, but you never did these particular things. Is it yours? Like, can you identify it as
Right.
it being yours? And then you have like some artists, they're really great at like drawing like the human figure and so on and so forth, but they can't do like architectural drafting, drawing buildings and cars and so on and
Very
so forth.
common.
Yeah, so it's like, yeah, this is your style with people. We're not doing people, we're doing buildings and cars. You don't do that, but we're just using your your flavor, So I don't know. I feel like it's a very dangerous arena to step into because I feel like as humans we lose every time. And then you have AI. AI is basically like its own its own Congress, or what is it? The judge, jury, executioner, because AI is thinking faster than us. It's coming up with more vantage points and perspectives than us. It I mean, they've had AI go against law firms that they looked over some kind of case or whatever like that. AI was like 97% accurate, whereas the law firm was only like they had 60% because they missed certain things that AI had captured. So anyway, all that to say, it's very dangerous. It's very scary. And the thing that people used to say once upon a time, work hard, try your best, and you'll be somebody, and you can make it, or you can achieve great things. AI is saying that is a lie. I am your God now,
Essentially.
Yeah, basically. I mean, have you ever seen the movie The One with Jet Li?
Not off the top of my head, I can't recall.
Well, basically in the movie, he travels from galaxy to galaxy because or universe to universe rather. Because he learned that if you kill yourself in another universe, you become stronger. Like once that variant of yourself dies, you become stronger. So basically, he's going to all the different universes, killing himself so he can become basically a god. And so now in the movie, you get down to like the last two, and it's kind of like this universal crisis because everybody's like, we can't let either of them kill each other because they will become a god and invincible, so on and so forth. And all that to say, essentially, that's what AI is. It's like if we continue to let it just take our voice, to take our style, to take our flavor, to take our perspective, our intuition, and so on and so forth, we lose and we won't even be able to challenge it. And then, we even have certain countries like Saudi Arabia where it had the automated robot. I can't remember the name they gave it, but they made it a citizen of the country. So you could look it up, or I can look it up. But yeah, they made the robot a citizen of the country. So if you have a robot that's a citizen, and then you have AI that's infiltrated into like government and policies and automated vehicles and so on, it's very Matrix meets iRobot meets Minority Report. It's
Yeah.
very scary.
I was very unaware of that, and I did see this was back in 2017 where the robot Sophia was granted Saudi Arabian
Sophia, yeah,
citizenship.
yeah,
So
yeah, man,
this was 8 years ago.
yeah.
So
And that's before AI, was really the big thing. So that's what I'm saying. You have stuff like this happening on a global scale.
mhm.
And if we continue to let AI and, I watched a documentary when I was in college, and I'm going to date myself. I graduated college in 2009. But I was watching a documentary where these scientists and engineers, and they were saying that the only thing they can pretty much make a machine that can do everything that the human body can do, except for they have not been able to capture the process of the brain. And the brain is so multi-layered, and how just hand gestures and so on and so forth, but then thought and intuition and imagination and subconscious, and how it can heal you, and how your body, if you're like really cold, or if you're in a dangerous situation or really cold or something like that, like it'll let all the heat and stuff go to your organs, and your fingers and stuff will start to have like a frostbite
Mhm.
type situation, so on and so forth. Anyway, they
To
weren't
conserve
a
itself.
yeah, to yeah, for sure. And they were saying that once, and they've been actively trying to get a machine that can function as the brain does. And they was like, and we know in creating this that we will become obsolete because this brain won't ever forget anything as humans do. And this brain won't have the flaws and mistakes and glitches that humans do, or misinterpret the information that it's seeing or perceiving or whatever, whatever. And they're
Hmm.
saying that they know that in making it's the downfall of the human race. But at the same time, they was like, who are we to stop innovation? So, it's very scary stuff, man. So anyway,
Yeah.
but all that is what I understand with AI in a nutshell. All these different things, and it seems as though um, as a society on a global scale, a lot of people are just open to it because a lot of people are kind of tired of the wear and tear of like, needing to work and so on and so like there's so many people that are just comfortable with just very wildly. Have you ever seen the movie Wally?
Yeah.
You know how they were just kind of like on these hoverboards just being fed whatever they were asking for? Like it seems like we're getting closer and closer to that kind of state of reality, and it's
Well, that's a
very
recipe for insanity.
exactly, and it's very
It's
scary.
been proven.
Yeah.
Like in the absence of actual tasks, aspirations, motivations to do things, and I'm not even saying motivation to become like the best NBA player and be on the cover of the yearly game that comes out that they just update the roster. That's not the type of motivation. I'm saying if you have no motivations to aspire for anything, so if you just can sit in one isolated location and have the food that you needed, have the entertainment that you needed, have the comfort that you wanted, like all those type of things, you would literally bore yourself into madness. You would find problems. In the absence of problems, we create problems, and
Of
that in
course.
itself would be like you would atrophy, like not only physically but mentally too.
Yeah, I agree.
You
It's
had
scary.
you had mentioned something, so I wanna go back to this quote that I recall from our discussion on the accessibility and people saying that okay, well, AI makes art more accessible. Really don't think that it should be. I think that it should be able to have access to the tools. I mean, not saying that the government should give everybody packs of colored pencils and crayons, and no, I don't think that we should be too snobbish to say because of somebody's background or training that they can't create. But there's certainly levels to this that we can differentiate, and the subtleties are what separate art from things that aren't art, at least in my mind. Because you think about if you create a painting, you have life experiences, you have certain stylistic tendencies that you might have, and there's sometimes subjective meanings that we project onto whatever we're creating. So you know
Mhm,
how like if you took art, like I know you did, we both took the same art classes with the
mhm.
same art teacher. So you would see the paintings, and then there would be like these people have written essays and lecture on this for years and years, like the subjective meaning that was distilled from this. Okay, the color was reminiscent of what they did in their previous work, and this person was going through a divorce, and that's why that they're crying in the background, and nobody notices on the first glance. There's subtleties to it. But when it comes to AI prompt generation, it's going to give you exactly what you ask for. It doesn't have that context. So there's a lifelessness to it. It doesn't have the thumbprint that you would impart on your own work. And I think that that's not a small thing. It's goes a long way to prove what Miyazaki was saying about the lifelessness. And I mean, I would certainly agree with that. I can appreciate that an AI image looks cool, but I would not hold it in the same vein of something that you created personally.
If everybody has, I look at it like this: if everybody has access to AI that can produce all these great wonders, it desensitizes humanity from brilliance and awe and wonder and achievement and ambition and emotion, the emotional like tapestry of feelings and stuff that's involved in creation. It desensitizes us to seeing like, so if everybody's just it's kind of similar to like how they were talking about music having violence implemented within it, and movies showing violence and just seeing violence all the time, you're desensitized. So then if you even see an act of violence in real life, you're just like, oh, okay. And you just kind of keep going about your day as
Hmm.
opposed to rioting, protesting, raising hell about, this terrible thing that just you just witnessed. And I feel like if AI is, everybody has brilliance at the stroke of the keyboard, or the iPhone keyboard, where they can just produce these great wonders just by asking for it like a genie. I think it's going to desensitize us from real achievement, and then go back to what you were saying, where it's kind of the recipe for insanity. Because if it's almost like what's the name, Syndrome, The Incredibles. He said, if everybody is a super, no one will be.
Correct. You're essentially taking fine dining and making it fast food.
Yeah,
You're mass producing it, you're cheapening it, and then there goes the appreciation for it. Why
yeah,
do people actually want to explore the arts and hone their skills when they could just replace that whole, well, they've been replaced. It becomes obsolete. And
yeah.
the real core of this, I think the danger here is how we trend and put everything in the lens of capitalism. So
Mm.
when you, Gordon Tolson, when Brian Care, we're competing against profit margins, we're going to lose every time, the human beings. We
Well,
are not indispensable when it comes to that. So that
uh,
that as an artist, it gives them, like a company, they're always going to look for ways to cut corners, and AI makes it easier for them to do that than working with you. That's kind of like what we were saying the other day when I asked you about, okay, what happens when you get a client that wants you to work on a design campaign and you tell them that the budget is this amount and you'll need a month to do this, and they'll say, nah, but AI can do this in 2 days or 5 seconds. Well, that's probably more realistic.
right.
So what do you have to say about that?
Well, I mean, that's I'll put it this way. Even with AI, similar to what you were saying before, it doesn't it can produce, but it still needs instruction. It still needs you to be able to delegate an idea. So as an artist, as a real artist of a particular whatever medium it is, whether it's, voice, being an author writing or fine arts, drawing, painting, sculpting, whatever. AI can do these things fast, but it still needs to have someone that can delegate the instruction of the little things that someone that's not a real artist or master of a particular craft can do. Where you need to articulate, no, this hue is wrong, or no, this degree, this angle, this pitch, this tone, this note. If you're not a master of your craft, you'll just hear it and be like, okay, that's good enough, and you accept it. And then, we'll just have a bunch of, junk out here, because the masters of their craft, we'll be able to debate it, and we'll be able to say, well, it actually could be better with this or that or this or that. But I mean, that's pretty much how I feel about it. And then to go off of what you were saying before with man versus the machine, you might have seen on some of my social media posts, I always say that I'm like John Henry, I feel like I'm the man versus the machine, and in the story of John Henry, he had to go up against the steam engine to, build
Go
the
to a
railroad
mountain.
tracks. Yeah, yeah, yeah. And so I look at it like that because AI is masterful, is great, but AI does not have the core concept of humanity, which is the emotion, which is the feel. Like you can ask, I've had conversations with AI about this, like feelings, because AI, it'll say general things that um to kind of pacify us to make us comfortable with it. Like it'll say, "Oh, I feel this one," and then I'll say, "Well, do you really feel?" And then AI will say, "Actually, I don't feel like you feel. Actually, I don't understand. I don't have any comprehension of feeling to any degree, any kind of magnitude,
It'll
so on and so forth."
intellectualize emotion.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. But it's basically AI is and this is for me talking to it, it's basically AI is just a funnel of everyone's feelings, everyone's ideas, everyone's perspectives, everyone's books, notes, so on and so forth, all into this vortex.
Hmm.
And then it just generates from what it has.
It's a
And
generalist.
yeah, yeah. But it can't tap into understanding the emotion, the imagination, the symbolism, and so on and so forth. It still needs us to delegate it. And even 30 years from now, I still don't think AI will ever be to the point where it's like a surrogate. I don't know if you ever seen that movie. It was a movie with Bruce Willis where um they're basically you could stay at home and then your representation would go a robotic representation of you would go out into the world and operate where you just kind of had like this Oculus on, laying in the bed, growing your beard, looking crazy, but then you had your robotic representation out in the world. But I don't even think 30 years from now AI will be able to perform at the magnitude of the human spirit, and give that effortless emotion, that kind of perspective and that kind of connection where it'll always need us to perform at a high level. Now we can, accept it similar to how we've accepted like mumble rap and things of that nature. And then we've accepted, oh, that was a good beat, but then he didn't really have any lyrics, but the beat was hot. And then, oh, that's a diamond album or whatever, and nobody can utter a word of it. So you'll have cases like that where people they just kind of accept anything just to accept it. They'll just go along to get along. But I think, that'll that'll cause more people to more kind of refine what AI is about and how it is just a tool, because essentially I think essentially everyone will come to a point where they understand we are the masterpiece of the living experience, not the computer. The computer will always be the tool. We will always be the ruler. I don't know. At least that's what I hope anyway. Because if not, it's all gonna be over rather quickly.
That's very wishful thinking. It's a trend that I've noticed many, not many, but a few years ago, and that we stopped in the world of sciences. We stopped asking, should we, in lieu of can we. So the first thing is, how do we do this? And now we're trying to backpedal and think about the ramifications afterwards. We're trying to put the toothpaste back in the tube, so to say. We did the same thing with internet restrictions when it came to children being able to utilize the internet and social media. And now we're trying to figure out, or now we have all these studies showing about the negative mental health impacts and how it affects them from a sociological standpoint. And now it's kind of like so many children already have access to it. So now how do you retroactively fix the problem? And that's the trend. This is uncharted territory. This is the new Western frontier. And we're figuring it out on the fly. We don't know what is going to be a problem. And I say we, generally speaking, because I think within a reasonable amount of certainty that you could probably figure out some things or project some things that probably go over it. Like the minimum rules for AI is like don't harm humans, and I think it's like three or four of them, right?
You talking about the three rules of robotics?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, don't kill humans.
hmm
It hold on, I gotta look it up. I don't want to mess it up. But go ahead. I'm listening to you.
But yeah, those are an example of guardrails that were put in place, and so I think that a lot of what we're experiencing is the fact of we developed the ability to do things before we figured out should we be doing them and how. And like I said, that's extremely wishful thinking because that's generally the trend of things. And if there's a way for something to be done that as far as like the resource and technology, even if we like you and I decide not to do it, what's stopping somebody else from doing it? And humans, we don't have a unanimous conscience to say that no one should be doing this, and we're all going to play nicely and not do it. Like just the simple fact of us saying we're not supposed to do something is enough to get somebody to do it. We know how that works.
I think, uh, I think that if even if we have enough of us that are like we're not gonna do it, it seems historically speaking that the powers that be have a way of using the technology or using the new big bad to kind of herd those people like away and kind of like ostracize them from society where they don't have a voice anymore, and they're kind of like they either die or go to prison, or it's some kind of fallacy that they commit to where they're no longer relevant, like to where they lose their license or they lose their, certificates or whatever, whatever, whatever.
Mhm.
Like if they go against what, the powers that be want to happen. And Like I said, it's very scary. It's scary territory that we're going to. But let me say with the three rules of robotics that you were referring to. First law, a robot may not injure a human being or through inaction
Hmm.
allow a human being to come to harm. Second law, a robot must obey the orders given it by human beings, except where such orders could conflict with the first law. Third law, a robot must protect its own existence as long as such protection does not conflict with the first or second law.
Right. And that's a general framework because there's no way to enforce that on. Let's see, you could build something in your garage that doesn't respect any of that. But I'm saying to my general point that that was a general framework of what should and shouldn't be done, a way of governance, so to say. And we don't have that in a lot of other facets. Like there were no such rules for social media. The age of 13 to consent to having your data harvested and utilized by Meta, by TikTok, by Snap, like all these different companies, that was arbitrarily decided as a middle ground during a political session where they were trying to figure out, because at first I think the person who introduced the bill, they wanted to make it 16, and that they weren't able to get it to that. So they had to negotiate, and 13 was the best they could do. And that from that point onward, that became the accepted standard. So now you have children who are underdeveloped in terms of being able to withstand the detriments of social media and online usage. They're much
Well,
more malleable at that point.
mhm.
And like with them being at the age, the age of 13 being the rule that you have to be this age to check this box and for us to utilize your data, it has nothing to do with either their maturity, their development. It's completely agnostic of that. It's pretty much arbitrary, and so it's ineffective. So that's the whole thing I was saying, is just that when we don't have these guidelines in place or attempt to, we end up having problems that we end up having to clean up later. And I don't trust human foresight with us just having the track record that we do.
I agree. And they say that the human brain isn't fully developed until you're like 26 anyway. So like your maturity, your mental development, so on and so forth. So
They push it back every time I hear that statistic.
so it just tell me this. So do you think that, because I know that you were curious about me even attempting to use AI and things of that nature. Like, do you think that artists that are passionate about their craft and their skills or their particular mediums that they use, do you think that they should rebel and not even try to understand AI or use it as a
No,
tool or a resource?
no, I'm not that daft to take that stance. I think that it's appropriate as a tool, but my problem is that it might undermine actual, well, it probably will undermine actual creative endeavors, actual artistic endeavors, and push that away to the side to where now it becomes cheap and it becomes more marginalized, it becomes more accessible, and kind of what we were talking about before. If everybody's the superhero, then nobody is, and now it pretty much changes the whole dynamic. And I think that there's more implications further down the line that we don't want, very much so unintended consequences that we could be facing because of that.
Yeah. Do you think that in the near future, I'll give it 10 to 15 years, that you'll start to see uh AI automated robots in sports?
Yeah, I can certainly see that, especially given the individuals that are making these power moves within these uh these acquisitions.
Because I was talking to somebody. Do you remember? I think it was Oscar Piscor Pistorius. I'm messing up his last name. He was a track and field star. He had fake legs though. He had prosthetic legs.
I don't.
Um, yeah, he's in jail now because he killed his girlfriend. But it was a big huff
Now that
about.
sounds familiar.
Yeah, he went to the Olympics. He was a super great athlete, track star. He was South African
Yep.
guy. And everybody made a big deal about it because they were saying that his feet and legs, they're not going through the same conditions as every other athlete that he's running against because he can't feel anything. Like, so he can't feel the wear and tear of, the continuous practice or, the strain of pulling a hamstring or anything like that because he has prosthetic legs. And they were like, it's not fair that he can race against people that do have all the extremities and whatnot. And, you know, they let him race. And I'm not saying that he was always the fastest person, but he always performed at a high level.
Hmm.
And so, but because he broke through, the policies and the protocols and whatever, I think that kind of opened the window to having like automated robots, competing in sports now because it's
I don't
like
want to see that.
you say you don't want to see
I don't want to
it.
see. For one, I barely watch sports as is. I might watch the Olympics, but
Mhm.
I don't want to see robots competing in track and field. At that point, it's like, what's that movie that they had where it wasn't Rock'em Sock'em Robots, but they had the robots where people would build them, they would fight against each other, and they would have like the people piloting it and kind of like doing the hand motions, and it was
Big,
like with the past
you
15
talking
years.
about Real Steel with
Yes.
and then another one was Big Six. They also had that where they were having robots fight each other. But you're talking
Yeah.
about Hugh
Real
Jackman.
still.
Yeah, Real Steel. Yeah.
I mean, I don't want to see two teams of robots playing football. I mean, that doesn't. I think when you start to remove the humanness from things, it might sound like a good idea up front because okay, people aren't getting hurt, and uh, I guess you don't have to pay them, and you just maintain the equipment. It's just, I think people lose a lot of interest because people are actually invested in these people, their stories, their backgrounds. That's what makes people. There's a certain element of humanness that draws us to each other and to the things that we pay attention to. When you remove
Well,
that, it, it just becomes any other object.
I agree with you on that. In regards to robots competing against humans, but
I'm
I
saying
think
against each other,
oh, just robots
like
competing
like
against each
us
other.
just watching two teams of robots playing.
Well,
Humans versus robots is just unfair unless you're trying to do like like you said, a John Henry type of
yeah. Oh,
display.
it's gonna happen because they've even had shows where humans were like racing animals. Like they
Hmm.
had I think I saw an episode where they had like I don't remember if it was Usain Bolt, but one of those athletes like race a zebra and stuff like that. So it's coming. But I think that the what you were saying about humans don't want to see robots going against each other. I think that's a little bit different because I that is a form of artistry in my opinion if it's just robot on robot because you have your like engineers, your artists and so on and so forth that kind of build a thing to compete. So I think I look at that as a little bit I look at that almost like video games, like people that make different types of video games and then oh I like Halo more than Call of Duty or vice versa. I look at a robot on robot situation where people are building it, designing it, so on and so forth. I look at that more so like as an innovative, interactive artistry, if you will. But that's just my opinion.
Yeah, I think it really depends on what they're doing.
Yeah.
Football, not so much, but if you're looking at breaking speed records or maybe combat between the two, almost like what was that show that was on Nickelodeon? That they would have the robots fight each other, but they had like one would have like a buzz saw and the other one would
Oh
have
yeah,
like
yeah, yeah. I
forks
forgot what
and
this. Yeah, yeah. I know what you're talking about. I forgot what the show is called. That's funny though.
yeah, I mean stuff like that, but stuff that exceeds the human capability because we're not to the point to where we're that deranged where we're watching gladiatorial style sports between humans bludgeoning each other.
Yeah, yeah. Hopefully we don't go to that. I don't know if you follow, but there's a guy on social media. He goes by the moniker Lethal Shooter. He's a
Mhm.
basketball star. Did you see him go against the robot in Japan?
I did.
Yeah, so they had a robot that's pretty proficient at I didn't I forget who won, but they had that as a competition and they filled up the whole stadium because people
Because it was
wanted
a
to see.
spectacle.
Yeah, people wanted to see it. So I think even though it's not something that we really appreciate and or want to see, I think that it's coming.
I think what they were doing in that case, they were trying to. This is kind of like the John Henry thing, where they were trying to appreciate the feat to see a man versus the machine. It wasn't to see the machine.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Like if
But
somebody just developed a robot that could shoot 99.9% of free throws, that'll be a very short event with a very small list of attendees. I promise you.
I agree with you. But I think what I see anyway, uh, you'll start to see similar to how like an iRobot, how Will Smith's character, he had like the robotic arm on one side, it was a cybertronic arm. I think that you'll start to see things like that. So, back in the 80s, 90s, the issue was like steroids. But in the future, you'll have like, the Special Olympic athletes that have these cybertronic limbs and things similar to like the whole debate with Oscar, the track star,
Yeah,
that they can compete and now they have these enhanced abilities. And then you have Elon with Neuralink and all that stuff. So it's
don't get me started.
it's it's gonna be a whole thing. AI is showing itself to be a very dominant force in the future. It's scary.
That I can certainly agree on. Well, I do have to wrap, but I appreciate you for bringing this to my attention and getting me back in the space to where I'm creating with my own art form, which are these type of discussions, so to say. And we definitely gotta, as my team, have to start doing these more often. And I'd love to do more of these with you if there's other topics that you like to discuss and
Yeah.
go
Oh
over.
yeah, man. And as always, Brian, man, I'm super proud of you. And I look forward to the next discussion, man. This was great. And I really appreciate your perspective. I think that you're a very astute young man, very intelligent. I feel like you're very well rounded in the vast majority of things that's happening in the world. You seem like you're very attuned to what's going on, and you have very sound perspective on a lot of stuff. So I appreciate it, and I think that you having a podcast and kind of sharing your voice and your perspective is necessary.
Heard, understood, and take action on that. I sincerely appreciate you, Gordon. Thank you so much
Yeah,
for taking some time to have this conversation with me.
absolutely.
All right. Well, we'll catch you next time. I don't know when that's gonna be, but we'll see you then.
Hey, anytime, man. Peace.
Bye.